Hey Scorpio, it's Rebecca from Being Human Tarot here with your March 2019 reading. This month I'm sticking with the same 3-card spread that I've historically done, even though last month I kind of said that I wanted to change things up, which I may or may not still do. I think I do still want to at least try a couple different spreads out, in the next few months, but I may come back to this one because I realize that I have a lot of affection for it and I might not be ready to let go of it yet. So just FYI. And as a reminder, that 3-card spread, the first card indicates what to focus on this month, the second card indicates what to set aside for the month, and the third card is just an additional consideration for the month. This month I'm reading with the Enchanted Tarot deck. It's an anniversary edition, and I'm going to show you how big these cards are. They're huge. So, I don't know if the non-anniversary version of this deck is this big, and it's just that they decided to make this one larger, but it's kind of, even though they're really cumbersome to shuffle, it's kind of cool because you have a lot more just space to work with, and so the illustrations, the detail, you can see like a lot more than like the average card, so that's cool. With that, I will get right into your reading. For your focus of the month, you drew the 9 of Hearts. Move a little bit closer so hopefully you can focus on the image a bit there. The 9 of Hearts in this deck, the heart suit is equivalent to cups. So this is the 9 of Cups in most traditional tarot decks. And if you can see this young lady, she's got a lot of love to share. A lot. And just like the man who's in the, traditional depiction of the 9 of Cups card, he's just like surrounded by a shit ton of cups. It's about having a bounty, and I was gonna say excess, but I think that excess can have the connotation that it's too much, or that may be its actual definition. Whereas, in the 9 of Cups / Hearts, it's not about having too much. It's not, things aren't going to waste. It's about having an abundance, but not a wasteful abundance, even though it's a ton. And so in that case, I think that, or in this case, I think that what that means is that there's enough for sharing. Now, you'll notice in this card, there's not anyone else in it, but that doesn't mean that there aren't other people that you could share it with. That doesn't mean that, she's kind of looking over here. That doesn't mean that, stage left over here isn't, someone she's gazing adoringly at. So, sorry, I lost my train of thought for a second. I would say, it's always a great message for anyone at any time, but for you in particular this month, especially Scorpio, if you've been kind of holding back a little bit and playing it cool with someone who you care about a lot, maybe now is the time to let them know and to really express that. And also to remind yourself that you have a lot of love. You have a lot of capacity to love. And just because it's not like if you show that and share that with someone that it gets taken away from you, or that you don't have enough to then give another person, or you don't have enough to give yourself. Love doesn't work that way. Emotions don't work that way. I think sometimes we can lead ourselves to believe that because it can feel scary to put yourself out there and give something to someone, and then if you don't get it back, it feels like you lost it, right? Like you lost those cups or you lost those hearts, but you totally didn't. That's a myth. if anything, you gained some because you took this emotional risk. And that just kind of like, it's a hard thing to do, you know? And also I think by practice, we can, I was going to say gain more of the same. I don't know, that doesn't really make sense contextually, but it can get easier, right? And maybe hopefully eventually we don't have to see it as this like exchange, even though it can definitely feel like that, and that's valid. So if that resonates with you this month or just in general, like now is a good time to live a little free and loose. That was a horrible way to say that, but don't love in fear, I guess, and don't hold back out of fear rather than what I just said before. In your position of what to set aside, you drew the Four of Pentacles. And this actually ties in with the Nine of Hearts as your focus, because as you'll see in this image, the person is kind of like holding up this jewelry, these valuable things to themselves, like close to their chest, and kind of like looking off in the distance or like next to her, you know, like who's gonna take this from me? And the Four of Pentacles can definitely be about a kind of greed. Not like, I don't really love the word greed for it a ton here, because I think it's less about greed and more about protection of things that are valuable to us, which isn't necessarily greed, right? That's just caring about things we have. Whereas greed is like, ha ha ha, I want not only all of the great things I have, but the great things she has and he has. You know, things that like I couldn't even do anything with, but I just want them because, and that's not really what's happening. You know, it can also be so beyond material possessions, it's can be about, because it's a pentacle, right? And it's therefore an earth card, and can be about the body. And this is actually a great depiction of that side of this card, because the woman here is not really clothed except for like holding up some garments and the jewelry. And so it's also kind of like just kind of like closing off her body in a protective way, which can definitely be what the Four of Pentacles is about. It's just like self-preservation, boundaries, physical boundaries with your body and how other people interact with it. So do you see like how well, you know, like if the message is to kind of be open toward, you know, giving love to others and sharing, and, you know, like not just romantic love, but, you know, even with family, sometimes we put ourselves out there for family and they just disappoint us again. Or it could be a friend. Maybe it's a friend we've known for a long time, and they're just not the same kind of friend to us, or maybe they are, but like you're still taking a risk, you know, whatever the situation is. We might want to have this kind of reaction with it, to kind of, no, this is like my stuff, like I don't want to give that away, it'll feel bad if I lose it. But again, that's not the way that love works. It's not the way that affection and care for other people works. You don't lose it, even if it's not reciprocated. It'll feel really shitty for sure, but you did not just lose it. In fact, and sorry, I feel like I'm being a little repetitive, but in fact, like you gained something because you put yourself out there in a way that that person did not. So set this aside this month if you can. Obviously, if it's like a physical, if the meaning for you is more of a physical boundary safety thing with your body, then respect it. Like don't set it aside. But you know, in the other respects, I think that ties in well with your focus. And in your position of additional consideration, you drew the Wheel of Fortune. Which Libra also drew this card in this position, and it's about letting things be what they are, because the Wheel of Fortune is just turning, right? There's only so many things that are in our control, and then there's some things that, I mean, like, honestly, most things aren't. And that's a bad feeling, and it makes a lot of us uncomfortable. And it doesn't mean that we shouldn't care about the things that aren't in our control, but it means that we have to have a certain level of acceptance with those things and not, like, let ourselves become so worked up over them. We have to find other ways of dealing with the disappointment of not being able to control certain things. But we can control ourselves. We can put ourselves out there. And we can control, like, when we hold back. So it's just sort of a reminder when paired with these two other cards that it's like you can do that great work and control yourself and give back to other people. But if they don't give back to you, it's like, it's not within your control. And it doesn't mean that you're not worthy of reciprocation of those feelings or anything like that. It, you know, it could mean that, like, it's just that relationship wasn't meant to be in that way, or maybe that person's just not on your level and able to give back, even though they might feel that way too. And there are like a million different reasons people react the way they do in situations like that, right? So don't beat yourself up if you put yourself out there and make yourself vulnerable. You know, especially for you, Scorpio, it's not an easy thing for you to do. So you want to really congratulate yourself for, you know, taking a risk. So that is your reading for the month. I hope you found it useful. If you did, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing to the channel. I upload the suite of videos before the first of every month for each sign. And if you hit the bell icon next to subscribe, you'll be automatically notified as soon as I do that. So just eases the process up a little bit, lets you know when your video is ready. And that's it, Scorpio. Thank you for joining me, and I hope I'll see you next month. Bye.